Welcome to Grounding Ascension, where we explore the process of activating and integrating our I Am presence. I am your host, Celeste Glus. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Grounding Ascension. I'm loving this. I'm loving showing up here every week for you guys and sharing so much good content. It is just flowing through me. So in this week's episode, we are going to be talking about holistic living for DNA activation. And this is going to wrap up the 3-part series of the foundations to awakening and activating your soul journey. Now, I feel like this is such a perfect time to be talking about this. It's currently September 2nd, the second day of September, and the gates, the cosmic portal of September opened wide yesterday. And how do I know that? Well, I was immediately thrown into a very deep meditative state yesterday for the entire second half of my day. Completely unplanned as usual, as just the way that it happens. It's the way that my journey started. My body just clicks in when there's a gateway or a stargate that's activating here and across all realities and dimensions. And my body clicks in and asks me to stop. So I really don't have a choice. I have to sit down and close my eyes. And so I went in. And I connected for hours and hours and hours. And why am I sharing this? Well, in the beginning of my process, I had no idea what was happening, and I didn't know how to integrate these journeys, these experiences. Now, you may be like, all right, Celeste, I really don't care because I am not thrown into meditative states. Cool, that's awesome for you. But you are definitely, if you're listening to this, you are experiencing something in your life. Something that is not necessarily normal, maybe to your ancestry, to your parents, to the people around you. There is something about your life that is opening up and is making you curious about these episodes, about literally an podcast episode that is called Grounding Ascension, right? So there is this process which nobody told me about from the very beginning. Nobody told me, hey, you actually need tools and techniques to integrate the things that you're living, right? So whether they are meditative journeys or just other kinds of experiences, which they can be an infinite array of experiences that you have on this process of awakening and ascension. But ultimately, whatever it is that you're living, you need to ground the higher frequencies. And I don't believe that there's enough conversation in spiritual communities about how to practically ground these higher level frequencies and codes. I come from a very heavy background of movement and holistic nutrition. And now I can see why I've dedicated over a decade into both of those fields, because I'm not really sure how I would have done it otherwise. So basically today I will be giving you a bunch of tools and techniques, a bunch of tips on how to ground these higher incoming frequencies that we are living now, that continue to get stronger and more powerful with every gateway that passes. And not only is it important to ground these incoming frequencies, but it's also important to get to the point in your ascension process that you actually enjoy them. And that may have sounded to you, or definitely to me back in the day, like completely out of left field. Like there's no way that I'm going to enjoy having my days completely cut off and going into these crazy experiences, or having the nausea and having the fatigue and the exhaustion and X, Y, and Z, all of these ascension symptoms that we know come from the ascension process. But here's the thing, guys. If you actually start to put all of these tips and these techniques into play, you will get to the point where you can enjoy them more often than not. Okay. Now, yes, it doesn't mean that it's easier. They're still going to be challenging because integrating such high levels of light into our body is not something normal or that's been done often in our human history. So, of course, there's going to be a challenge involved, but it is also possible to get to the point where you actually can enjoy the process. When I was guided to go into meditative journeying yesterday, the first initial hit to my stomach, I wanted to neglect it. I wanted to reject it because I knew what was coming. I knew that if I closed my eyes, I would not know when I was coming out. And then for just a moment, I sat with that and I said, but this is my job. This is why I'm here. And when I surrendered to that, it was such a beautiful experience. And I think that's really the reason why I'm here, to let you not only know, but experience your integrations and your experiences of this ascension process to be more delightful and to be more soothing than not. And by the way, masters in our ancient texts, in our history, they've known this. They've known that we need techniques and tools to ground this process. They were living it. Some of the masters that we know of were living these processes, but they had a very specific and very disciplined lifestyle so that their bodies could go from carbon to crystalline, right? That is such a massive effort on our bodies. Could you imagine? We're literally getting rid of all of the density in human history, at least almost all of it, and we're living it in our bodies. That is a tremendous amount of work for our bodies to undergo. So I always say the more tools and techniques, the better. And our modern day culture does not actually support this process. And I think it's important for you to know that because, again, nobody told me that, right? It's like, well, if I'm going through it, then my body must be built for it. No, our body is not built for it, and neither is our society. So the way that we live, our modern culture, is actually against, it pushes back the process of ascension. So we need to be very focused. We need to understand that our efforts need to be very disciplined so that we can accelerate and integrate these higher codes that are coming in and be able to activate our DNA and awaken our soul journey. Now, what exactly is a soul journey? I mean, this is the third series, the third episode of this series. So the soul journey is the alignment of your physical body to your higher self. So many of us that are living an unconscious program are just inheriting a box of societal programming and living in that box, or convincing ourselves that the life that we have is a life that we have and we just have to learn how to love it. Well, if you don't genuinely love it, then maybe it's time for you to step outside of that box. And that process, in my eyes, is the start of you aligning to your higher self. When your life becomes in service to something way greater than just you begin to align to your soul's path. And you need holistic tools and techniques to be able to start this path. So let's go straight into it, shall we? The first tip that I have for you, and it goes without saying that I have spent, again, so many years in specifically the supplement industry, the natural vitamins and supplements industry. So naturally, my first tip is use the supplements that are most supportive for this process to happen. Again, our bodies are not necessarily supported right now, considering the food chain, considering the air quality, considering most of us are living in very industrialized cities. So we need to provide our body with as much practical tools as possible. And using very high quality supplements, I think, is one of the most practical and easy to get a hold of techniques. So always make sure when you're looking at supplements that they are high quality. You don't want to be buying these things at CVS or Walmart or some random store that doesn't have any professional that knows about pure and true holistic health. And you'll know exactly what I mean when you walk into these health food stores. So a really easy place to start with supplements is getting supplements that increase the oxygen in your cells. One of the most popular supplements that I provide in all of my courses is this liquid called Cell Food. It's a tiny little bottle. You use like a tiny amount of drops per day in your water, and you're quite literally increasing the amount of oxygen inside your cells when you drink this water. That's one basic supplement that you can get. Another one is the greens supplements. And you probably know this, but are you actually sticking to it? Being able to incorporate spirulina, chlorella, a high quality greens powder. Make sure it's high quality, guys. I have found that investing just a little bit more and getting a little less is actually going to take you that much further. So sometimes we want the bigger greens powder bottle, but then we realize it's not organic and it's not quality. So you're so much better off getting the higher quality stuff that costs just a little bit more, but you're going to need so much less of it. And so the last supplement that I would recommend is silica liquid. Now, think about it, right? Our cells are literally going from carbon to silica, and they need as much support as possible. So what better of a host for your body would you be if you actually provide your body with the thing that it's trying to do? So you can actually buy silica liquid, and it is incredible. Silica can also come in pill form, but I always recommend with supplements to go with the liquid form when possible, just because it's going to be that much more concentrated. You will need to take that much less of it. And not only that, but your digestive system will thank you because it'll go down way smoother than pills. So when you're looking at fish oils, when you're looking at glucosamines, when you're looking at all of those things that usually come in pills that are heavy for your stomach, I always recommend just go with the liquid if ever possible, if you can maintain the integrity of the quality. So a very good high quality liquid silica is by far one of the most amazing things that you can do for your ascension process. And by the way, one of the amazing benefits of that is your hair and your nails and your skin begin to literally strengthen and glow and grow like never before. So highly recommend a liquid silica formula. Okay, the next tip might sound a little obvious, but I want you to be very honest with yourself. The next tip is hydration. I genuinely believe, and not only do I believe, but do I see in almost all of my clients a ridiculous need for water in our cells. We are quite literally walking around in a dehydrated state, most of us. Over 90% of people are dehydrated from my experience, from the clients that I work with. Why are we so dehydrated? Well, I'll tell you this. In regards to ascension and portals and gateways, which is what I work with, when we have these gateways and portals, the solar flares and the energy from the sun is quite literally peaking and becoming way stronger than what our bodies are used to. And there's a reason for that. There's a scientific reason, which I won't go into right now. But simply understand that as the sun gets stronger and as we cross more and more portals and gateways, this actually dehydrates our bodies. So it's not that you're not drinking enough water. It's just that your body is requiring more water. And forget about the fact that most of us are drinking caffeine and things that dehydrate our bodies. So just in general, use that cell food supplement, stick it in your water, and make sure that you are carrying around water all day long. And if you're at home, even better, get yourself a really high quality filtration system, because the quality of water that we're putting into our bodies is also very, very important. And I think most of you know this, but even to take your quality of water to the next level, you can charge your water. You can program your water. And I have found this to be a really powerful tool to not only help my body stay lubricated and feeling really good, but also to program my cells to actually integrate these incoming frequencies and bringing higher timelines. So water is like this superconductor. It's this beautiful and powerful tool that we way underestimate, because we're lucky enough to live in a world where you right now are probably on a phone or a laptop listening to this podcast. So you have water running available to you at all times. So we need to take advantage of that and start to program the water that we're drinking, program the water in our bodies, because the water on earth is constantly being replenished, and it's just part of one huge cycle. It's not like we're getting new droplets of water. We are constantly consuming and eliminating the water that has been processed through earth since the beginning of earth. Literally, think about that. So water is quantum. And when we start to access the power of water, wow, that is really helpful for our ascension process. All right, the next one is movement. And yes, I am obsessed with movement. I grew up as a dancer and I've always been very physically active. But specifically in relationship to ascension and integrating and creating a holistic lifestyle, we need to understand that the fitness world that has exploded within the past decade is not always giving us the healthiest message for our body. And so when I say movement, I am talking about lubricating our joints and creating fluid momentum in our cells. So we need to start thinking about movement not as let me work out and get a six-pack, although I'm not against that. I think it's great to be fit, but I think it's more important to create a movement lifestyle instead of a workout regimen that we could do now, but are we going to keep up with that in 15 years? And how is that affecting our bones and our muscles and our ability to move holistically through the world? Because I've been teaching fitness for a really long time, and I got to experience a lot in the fitness industry. And what I have seen is that we have become obsessed with creating workouts that are not healthy long term. So my motto in the past year or so has been to truly create a movement regimen that is healthy long term. And I have found that to be way more fitting for this ascension process, because it doesn't actually fatigue the adrenals. It doesn't fatigue and exhaust the body, because the body's already going through so much pressure having to integrate and bring in these higher light codes. So if we're also adding stress to that process by overexerting our bodies and creating unnecessary stress, then we're going to hold ourselves back. So I just invite you to get curious about how you're approaching your workouts. Again, it doesn't mean you can't go hard. I love going hard at the gym. I love getting an amazing workout. I love challenging my mind, body, and spirit through movement. I just ask you to get curious about your movement practice, and is that actually helping you long term? If you see yourself in 10 years having that same movement practice, what does it look like? Is it sustainable? Is it healthy for your adrenals and your stress levels and your body and joints overall? All right. The next tip is another one of my favorites, detoxification. And I have a whole course on specifically fasting. But before we talk about fasting, let's talk about detoxification. And this is something that I became obsessed with in the very beginning of my journey. And when I say detoxification, I am not just talking about the body, guys. We need to detox our entire lives, our minds, our homes, the cars that we drive, the clothes that we wear, the makeup, if you wear makeup, the hair products, the sanitary products, the things that we use to clean our home. I'm talking about a serious detoxification of your life. And I have found that the more stuff that I get rid of and the more layers that I get rid of, the better this process integrates. So just like a really easy example, so many of us have a closet full of things that we do not use. And so you might think, what the hell does that have to do with Ascension, Celeste? Well, when we hoard stuff that we don't use and we overconsume and we use materials that are not beneficial to our skin, this actually holds us back energetically. We need to start looking at our lives from a point of energy. And so the lighter we become, literally, the lighter everything we have becomes, our materialistic actions, the things that we own, the decisions that we make, the foods that we eat, all of that is a representation of our light body. And I will definitely be talking a lot more about this because we have lost frame of what spirituality actually means. And so we begin to hoard white clothes and all these other things that in fact are throwing us off the ascension path. And again, I'm not against having a lot of white clothes. I have a lot of white clothes, but my question to you is, can you get curious about what in your life needs to be detoxed? And that will naturally bring me into the next part, which is fasting. And intermittent fasting has been an incredibly powerful tool for ascension and for grounding the light that is coming in. I have an entire course that walks you through. I literally hold your hand through the process of fasting. And if you haven't tried fasting and you're scared of doing that, I highly recommend starting with intermittent fasting, which is a really easy thing to do. And guys, the benefits from this stuff is ridiculous. We need to start giving our mind, our body, and a spirit a break. And again, our modern society and culture is not built for that. We're constantly consuming, whether it's food, entertainment, media, drama, trauma, fear. I mean, holy schmoly, the list just goes on. And I have found that even intermittent fasting and just honestly creating a sacred portal window for yourself of 2 or 3 days of fasting can radically shift your awareness and the way that you look out into the world. The lens through which you see the world will radically shift after fasting, even for short periods of time. So definitely check out the fasting course if you haven't yet done so, or simply look into intermittent fasting and begin there. It's an amazing tool to accelerate healing of your body, your mind, and your spirit. All of this stuff, guys, it's quantum. It works on all levels. You're not just giving your body a break. You're giving your mind and your spirit a chance to regenerate. And this is why I'm so huge on fasting. All right. The next one is disconnect to reconnect. And you might have heard of this, but I have to repeat it, guys. It's really underestimated how powerful it is to create a mindful practice of actually disconnecting from the world. It's the whole reason why I created the 3-day free mindful balance challenge. I walk you through 3 days of creating a mindful practice in your life. It's so easy, and yet it's so hard to sustain in our lives. And this stuff is so powerful. And the more we can live it, the more we can implement it, the more you will realize that grounding these light codes and walking through these portals and gateways becomes a lot more accessible to you, because we stay grounded in our bodies and we stay connected to our lives. What I have found is that when I become overwhelmed and overtaken by the accelerated noise of the external stage, I become ungrounded. And portals and gateways become really uncomfortable for me. But when I make it a point to disconnect on a daily basis from my phone, from media, from television, from all of these external noises, oh wow. I mean, my perception of this process completely shifts radically, dramatically. So I invite you to disconnect in order to reconnect more often than not. Okay, the next tip is to activate and feel into your heart's intuition. Whew. Okay, what the hell does that even mean? Activate and feel into your heart's intuition. Well, first of all, we need to talk about activating your ability to tap into your heart. And this is a process in itself. We need to start understanding that the heart is the key to this ascension process. And if we're not tapped in and tuned in to our true heart's frequency, it's going to be a really rough ride, because our heart is supposed to be guiding us through this entire process. So starting to drop into our heart space and understanding that we can actually live from this place more often than not is going to provide an entirely different platform for your life to ride on. And you might have already noticed that a lot of my work has to do with navigating cosmic portals and gateways, right? Because it's how my process began. And so people ask me, well, I don't really feel the cosmic portal that you're talking about. I don't feel the gateway. What am I supposed to feel? And my answer to that always is, you're not supposed to feel anything other than what you're already living. But the whole purpose of bringing awareness to these portals and these gateways is first and foremost to start dropping into your heart space. So if you start to live your life more often than not from your heart, you're going to notice that these gateways bring accelerated choice points into your lives. It's going to happen naturally because you're tuned into your heart frequency, and these cosmic gateways are opening up your heart. So if you're not allowing your intuition to guide you, that's going to be a huge blockage in activating and accelerating your soul's path. And once we start to tune into our heart's wisdom and actually understand our heart's language, then you might start to feel into these cosmic portals a little bit more. But we cannot feel into these cosmic portals unless we're living from our heart's intuition. It's not possible. We have to open the door to our hearts first. So how do we actually do this, Celeste? How do I open the intuition of my heart? Okay, well, we need to create a meditation practice. And if you're not into meditation, you got to get with it. All right. So if you're not into meditation, then at least start to begin in a conscious breathing exercise. And it can be really simple, guys. It doesn't have to be woo-woo and some out there practice. Quite literally, I want you to do this with me. So let's take a deep breath in and a long sigh out. And so close your eyes with me. Allow your tongue to drop from the roof of your mouth. Allow your body to begin sinking into its wisdom. Don't worry about what that means or what that looks like. Just allow the density to flow away and allow your body to tap into a wisdom that has always been in there. And just notice your breath. Soften your eyes. Soften your shoulders. Soften your belly. And breathe. Imagine that you can breathe in and out of your heart. So instead of breathing through your nose, you're now breathing through your heart. Continue relaxing into your body. And then breathe through the back side of your heart. Continue relaxing your eyes. And now breathe through the sides of your heart. And just breathe here for a moment. What does it feel like to be in this space? I mean, when I'm into this space, I could be here for hours. It's incredible. And so the idea is to do this more often than not, to be able to hone into this frequency, to train your body to feel what it feels like to breathe through your heart while you're in conversation, while you're working, while you're sitting in traffic. And so you train your nervous system, you train your mind to drop into your heart's wisdom. And I promise you guys, the more you do this, the more you will tap into something so deep, so magical, so out of this world, that your life will begin to shift. It is the law of this universe. So try it. Train your body, train your heart, train your breath to become one with your heart's intuition. And I promise you, the way you walk through this world will shift radically. Okay, my friends, I think this is the perfect place to wrap up our time together. If you're interested in this whole process of ascension, of walking the ascension path, of learning how to deepen the experience of awakening your DNA, of activating the light body, of how to create a holistic wellness lifestyle, whether you're awakening or you're deep into the ascension process, I highly suggest checking out the Divine I Am course. It is a 7-week journey into all of this stuff. It's packed with tools and techniques and guidance and meditations and movement practices and honestly just practical advice to ground this process of ascension, which is basically what I'm obsessed about. So with that, my friends, we complete this 3-part series of awakening and activating your soul journey. And I will see you in the next episode. Sending you so much love. Mahalo.